Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why you can't stop doodling in the margins of your notebook, or why you feel the urge to write that song, or even just rearrange your furniture? It turns out that the reasons behind our creative impulses are far more varied and fascinating than we might think. This study dives deep into why we create, going way beyond the usual ideas of loving something just for fun or doing it. Because they asked university students a bunch of questions about what makes them tick when they get creative, both in general and specifically when writing, and what they found is a whole spectrum of reasons, not just a simple good versus bad split. So scientists have traditionally looked at creativity motivation in two main boxes: intrinsic motivation, meaning you do it because you love it, it is your passion, and you feel fulfilled by it, and extrinsic motivation, where you are doing it for an outside reward like praise, money, or to avoid trouble. But this new research suggests that these two boxes are way too small. They found a remarkable 12 different shades of motivation that drive people to be creative. These include things like personal challenge, expressing themselves, connecting with others, even just being bored or needing to solve a problem. Interestingly, one of the most common reasons people said they create, especially in university, is because they have to think school assignments, work projects, or even just a request from a teacher or boss. This is what they categorized as requirement. Then there is the pure joy of it, or fun. This is when creativity feels like a game or a leisure activity. Closely related is happiness and passion. This is that deep enjoyment, that feeling of pleasure, or being so passionate about something that you just have to create. Another big one is coping with stress. For many, getting creative is a way to unwind, relax, and escape from the pressures of life. It's a form of self-soothing or therapy. Then we have challenge and growth. This is about pushing yourself, learning new things, and growing as a person. It's about curiosity and self-development. Expression is a powerful motivator. It is the need to get your feelings, thoughts, or emotions out there, to tell your story, or to document life's experiences. Connection with others is about creating for or with other people. It's about sharing your work, giving a gift, or simply connecting on a deeper level with friends and family. External self is all about aiming for a specific outcome or feeling. This could be seeking praise, money, a promotion, or the pride that comes after finishing a creative endeavor. This is where some extrinsic motivations fit in. Believe it or not, boredom can also be a driver when you have nothing else to do. Your mind can wander, and creativity can be a way to fill that time. Thinking and problem solving is about using creativity to work through ideas, explore solutions, or gain awareness about a topic. It is creativity as a cognitive tool. And then there is inspiration, that spontaneous spark that makes you want to create something right then and there. Finally, prosocial is about creating to benefit others, to make a positive impact on people or groups. Now, these 12 motives weren't just a random list. The researchers found that these motives appeared consistently whether students were thinking about general creativity or creative writing. This suggests that while creativity can be specific to a domain, the underlying reasons why we do it are pretty universal. However, the frequency of these motives did vary. For general creative activities, requirement was the most common, followed by external self, and then happiness and passion and challenge and growth. Interestingly, when it came to creative writing, requirement was still number one, but expression moved up significantly in the rankings, showing that the need to express oneself is particularly strong in writing. Some motives like external self and challenge and growth were less common for creative writing in this student group. What is really cool is that they compared these frequencies, and while requirement and expression showed differences, most other motives appeared at similar levels across both general creativity and writing. This reinforces the idea that the fundamental motivations are quite broad. The study also looked at which motives tend to show up together. For general creative activities, they found that motives like fun, connection with others, challenge and growth, and boredom often appeared alongside other reasons. For instance, people who found creativity fun were likely to also see it as a way to connect with others or to overcome boredom. For creative writing, the picture was a bit different. Happiness and passion, coping with stress, connection with others, external self, and prosocial motives tended to co-occur more. It seems like when people write creatively, they might be driven by a mix of internal passion, stress relief, and external goals. One of the most groundbreaking findings was the identification of distinct motivation profiles. Using cluster analysis, they identified three main groups of people based on their creative motives for general creative activities. The first profile they called affective social. These are the people who create primarily for enjoyment, to connect with others, to relieve stress, and to express themselves. They might be more like little creators who engage in everyday creativity for personal satisfaction and social connection. The second profile was termed pragmatic problem solving. These individuals tend to create when there is a specific practical reason or challenge, often linked to fulfilling a requirement. They're less likely to create spontaneously. The third profile, achievement, growth, included those who are motivated by a desire for personal growth and challenge, but also by external goals and recognition. This profile might align more with pro-creators who aim for higher levels of achievement. For creative writing, the profiles were simpler. They found two main groups. One group was mainly driven by requirement, which they labeled the extrinsic profile. The other group was an extrinsic-intrinsic blend, showing a mix of requirement, along with most other motives. This suggests that creative writing, at least for this student sample, often starts with a requirement but can expand to include a wider range of intrinsic drivers. The study also explored what factors predict these different motivations. For instance, they found that older participants were less likely to be motivated by boredom, which makes sense as they might have more pressing life demands. Males were less likely than females to report motives like requirement, coping with stress, and expression, but more likely to report thinking and problem solving. This could hint at different pathways to creativity for different genders. And here is a really interesting one. Higher general creative confidence was linked to being less likely to create out of requirement, and more likely to create for coping with stress, for expression, for connection with others, for external rewards, and even for prosocial reasons. This implies that when you feel good about your creative abilities, you are more likely to tap into a wider, more intrinsically driven set of motivations. Looking at creative writing, they found similar patterns. Males were again less likely than females to report coping with stress and expression. As for creativity-related factors, higher creative achievements in literature were slightly associated with happiness and passion and external self-motives. Critically, intrinsic motivation for creative writing was strongly linked to fun, coping with stress, expression, and inspiration, while extrinsic motivation was linked to requirement and external self. This directly supports the idea that internal drivers are closely tied to a broader range of creative motivation, while external ones often revolve around necessity or reward. So, what does all this mean? The biggest takeaway is that creativity motivation is incredibly multifaceted. It is not just about loving what you do or doing it for a reward. There are so many other important reasons why we engage our creative minds. The fact that these 12 motives were consistent across general creativity and creative writing is a significant finding, suggesting a common underlying motivational landscape for creative endeavors. The researchers noted that 8 of their 12 identified motives align closely with previously identified motives from other studies, like enjoyment, coping, and expression. Their study adds boredom, thinking problem solving, and inspiration as distinct motivators. They also expanded external self to encompass recognition and material rewards. This shows that as researchers delve deeper, they are uncovering a richer, more complex picture of creative drivers. Of course, no study is perfect. This research was done with university students. It would be great to see if these same motives and profiles hold true for people in different jobs, different age groups, and people who are already highly accomplished in creative fields. Perhaps those individuals would reveal even more nuanced motivations or entirely new categories. The fact that the latent class analysis for creative writing didn't produce clear profiles is also highlighted as a limitation, possibly due to the strong presence of the requirement motive in the student sample obscuring finer distinctions. Ultimately, this study is a powerful reminder that the human drive to create is complex and deeply personal. Instead of fitting people into just 2 boxes of motivation, we need to appreciate the 12 distinct shades and the unique blends that make each person's creative journey their own. Understanding these diverse motivations can help us foster creativity more effectively, whether in education, in the workplace, or in our own personal lives. The next time you feel that creative itch, take a moment to reflect on why you are feeling it. It might be one of these 12 shades or perhaps a unique combination that is all your own. What I find most compelling about this research is how it validates so many different ways of approaching creativity. It moves away from a one-size-fits-all model and acknowledges that people create for very personal and sometimes unexpected reasons. The pragmatic problem-solving profile, for example, tells us that creativity isn't just for the inspired artist, it can be a tool for anyone facing a challenge. And the affective social profile highlights the pure joy and connection many find in creative acts. This research encourages us to embrace the full spectrum of our motivations and to recognize the value in every shade of creative drive. Future research could explore how these motives interact over time or how different personality traits might influence which motives are more dominant for an individual. Can we practically help people discover and leverage their unique motivational profiles to boost their creativity? I think that is a fascinating avenue to explore. What do you think are the most surprising findings in this study? Let us know in the comments below, and if you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more dives into the fascinating world of science. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.